My parents defended my sister's fake illness, even after she ruined my college and forced me into a garage, but the evidence crushed her in court. My parents told everyone that I had been frightening my crippled sister by walking too loudly. This whole situation began when Melissa returned home from college after being diagnosed with ADHD. Suddenly, everything triggered her. My footsteps were a distraction during her online lectures. I amused her with these silly foam slippers that made me look like a cartoon bear. So, the problem is solved, right? Wrong. She's now complaining to mom that the vibrations from my walking are causing her brain to scramble, despite the slippers. She accompanied this entire talk with articles about ADHD sensory processing. Mom ate it up. She purchased $200 on special carpet runners and forced me to go exclusively on those designated tracks through the house, as if I were a zoo animal following marked trails. I attempted to make it work. I actually did. I'd take little baby steps everywhere, arms out for balance, like if I were on a tightrope. My pals thought I had lost my mind as I tiptoed to the front door. My partner dumped me because he claimed I was acting strangely. But of course, nothing could ever satisfy Melissa. She created a plan, a laminated schedule of when I was allowed to walk about my own house. Not during my focus blocks, she answered, as if it were the simplest thing in the world, except that her focus blocks began at 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I needed to SMS her before leaving my room. Text my sister for permission to pee. She began documenting everything in this binder, including times I wandered without permission and decibel levels from an app. She'd record me walking and play it back to our parents as proof of my hostility. The breaking point came when she claimed that my midnight trek to buy water caused her to fail an exam. She claimed that the vibrations passed through the flooring and into her desk, making her forget all she had studied. My parents lost it. Dad installed motion sensors. Mom put my bed into the garage. The garage. It's more private out here. You can walk around all you want. Mom got me a space heater, which made sleeping next to gas cans acceptable. Even it wasn't enough for Melissa. She had a full breakdown, rocking back and forth on the floor with tears flowing down her cheeks, and repeating the words, "I can feel her hostile energy through the walls. I can't concentrate knowing she's on the property." My parents convened a family conference and informed me that I needed to stay with relatives until Melissa completed her semester. She's abusing her little sister. They informed everyone that I refused to accommodate Melissa's impairment. It's obvious she's trying to sabotage her education. That same night, they brought me to my aunt's house with 2 garbage bags full of clothes. They wouldn't even let me pack properly. All they wanted was for me to leave. My aunt soundproofed the guest room and gave me special slippers. My uncle gave me a business card for anger management. They kept their children away from me, as if I were a monster. Sigh. 3 days later, I was on my aunt's laptop researching ADHD accommodations when I noticed her email was open. I saw the receipt for Melissa's tuition payment, but something felt off. The number was not what it should have been. My heart began racing. The next morning, I called the college pretending to be Melissa and requesting enrollment verification for insurance. The lady continues, "I'm seeing you haven't been enrolled since spring 2023. You were academically dismissed." My heart has stopped. 18 months. She hadn't attended school for 18 months. I dug deeper. I called a friend whose brother attended state and asked him to see whether Melissa was in any of his classes. He laughed. "Your sister? She got kicked out freshman year for plagiarism. Everyone knows that." I sat there shaking as everything came together at once. My aunt came in and noticed my face. "What's wrong?" I showed her everything: the enrollment office call, my friend's texts, and a timeline of Melissa's symptoms. Everything. My aunt called my parents right away, put it on speaker. "When's the last time you actually saw Melissa's grades?" There was silence. As my mother attempted to log into the parent portal, I could hear her concerned moans. "Melissa changed the password 2 years ago, therefore it no longer worked." Dad phoned the bursar's office. $60,000 in tuition payments for nothing. She'd been pocketing everything. Turns out she only wanted me to go so I wouldn't inquire why her buttocks were constantly at home. And when they challenged her, she attempted everything. "This is OP's fault. She tried to overstimulate me and drive me insane on purpose." But this time, nobody believed it. My parents spam called me and begged me to return home, but I ignored them. Good riddance. The next day, when I went to check my student portal to register for spring classes, I noticed it. Withdrawal requested by student. I frantically called the registrar. Yes, you submitted the withdrawal form yesterday at 11:47 p.m. I recognized Melissa. When I hung up the phone, my hands couldn't stop shaking. Melissa had withdrew me from college. My own sister had accessed my account and destroyed my schooling when I was resting at my aunt's place. I called school security right away, my voice shaking as I told how someone had accessed my student account without authorization. The guy on the other end seemed bored. Ma'am, that's a registrar issue. They're open at 8 a.m. tomorrow. However, this is identity theft. Someone removed me from school. Still need to go through the registrar. Nothing we can do tonight. I wanted to chuck the phone across the room. Instead, I opened my laptop and began capturing pictures of everything. The withdrawal confirmation email, the timestamp 11:47 p.m., and the IP address shown at the bottom of the site. My aunt had encouraged me to capture everything, and now I realized why. The IP address seems familiar. I matched it to an older email from my parents' computer. The same numbers. The withdrawal was submitted from my parents' home while I was 20 miles away at my aunt's house. By 11 p.m. I was still unable to sleep. My thoughts were racing about what else Melissa could have done. I logged into my email settings, which I had never thought to check previously. There it was. A forwarding rule. For the previous 4 months, every email from my college was automatically routed to an address I didn't know. My stomach turned as I looked through my sent folder and discovered emails I'd never written. Responses to teachers stating that I was dropping their classes. Responses. Scholarship opportunities are diminishing. Even a note declining a paid research position I had applied for previous semester. I discovered the original emails in my trash folder, my instructors questioning why I had missed weeks of lectures, the financial aid office informing me about my enrollment status, and an invitation to join the honor society that I had allegedly denied. Each one was forwarded to Melissa before I ever saw it. My alarm did not need to go off the next morning. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., sorting every piece of evidence into folders on my laptop. My aunt took me to university and insisted on attending as my witness. When the registrar's office opened at 8, there was already a line, but I was the first in line. As I explained everything to the woman behind the desk and showed her the screenshots and IP address confirmation, she appeared sympathetic. I understand this is upsetting, she added, typing something into her computer. But to reverse a student-initiated withdrawal, we need a police report for identity theft. Plus, your department head has to approve your readmission, and you need to complete any missed coursework. How long do I have? She looked at her screen. 72 hours before your spot in the program is permanently released. After that, you'd have to reapply as a new student. A total of 72 hours. 3 days can save you 4 years of education. My aunt drove directly to the police station. The officer receiving my report frowned as I told him about Melissa, the bogus ADH, the stolen tuition money, and now the withdrawal. Family situations are complicated, he added, not actually looking at me. This could be seen as a domestic dispute rather than identity theft. Sisters share passwords sometimes. She had never had mine. She must have reset it or hacked it somehow. He gave me a report number but warned that it could take weeks before a detective was assigned. I didn't have any weeks. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was sitting across from my department head. She had always loved me, but her expression was serious when she pulled up my data. You've missed significant coursework, she told you. These emails saying you were dropping classes, the missed assignments. I can see you're a victim here, but you're looking at 4 months of work. I can do it. I just need the chance. She gave me a long look. If you can prove you were prevented from attending, really prove it, and complete all missed assignments within 2 weeks, I'll approve your readmission. 2 weeks for 4 months' work was better than nothing. That evening my aunt and I gathered at her kitchen table and created a chronology, including every episode with Melissa, every text message regarding the foam slippers, and every photo of the carpet runners my mother had installed. My aunt had even retained the receipt for the soundproofing she installed in my room. This is abuse, she explained quietly. Clear, documented abuse. She picked up the phone. I'm calling my friend. She's a lawyer. As my aunt made calls, I recalled something. I'd been texting Elise about everything. She'd witnessed it all in real time. Elise answered the first ring. Oh my God, I've been worried sick. Your parents called my mom and said you'd gone insane and attacked Melissa. Elise, I need your help. Do you still have our text conversations? Every single one. Why? I explained everything. The fake ADH, the stolen money, the withdrawal from school. Elise went silent for a long time. I'm driving down tomorrow, she added. And I'm bringing my laptop. It's strange how effortlessly everyone accepted Melissa's complaints about footsteps making her brain scramble. I'm curious that the parents never questioned such an outrageous assertion or requested actual medical documentation beyond a few written pieces. I screenshotted Melissa's Instagram stories, the ones when she was at parties during her alleged sensory crises. The lawyer arrived the next morning. She examined everything with keen eyes and occasionally asked questions. We have a strong case for the fraud, she told the audience. But I also need documentation of the emotional abuse, the garage, the walking restrictions, everything. Elise arrived that afternoon with a hefty packet of written texts and screenshots. She also had her witness statement prepared and notarized. The Instagram proof was damning. Melissa was at a concert the same night she claimed my footsteps caused her a migraine. Melissa attended a home party 2 hours after stating that she required perfect silence for studying. That evening I decided to conduct a more thorough review of our family's finances. If Melissa stole tuition money, what else did she do? I requested my credit report for the first time in my life. I had never opened 3 credit cards before, $15,000 in debt. All opened within the last year using my social security number. My palms shook when I dialed the police station again. This time, they promptly connected me to a detective. Credit card fraud changes things, the detective explained. This is now a felony case. We'll be arresting your sister tomorrow. My aunt changed her locks that night and added cameras the following morning. I know Melissa, she admitted. This won't end quietly. She was correct. My parents called the next afternoon, both shouting over the speakerphone. You're destroying your sister's life, Mom wailed. How could you do this to family? She stole $60,000 and opened credit cards in my name. We'll pay for your college, Dad exclaimed. Every penny. Just drop the charges. My aunt grabbed my phone and started recording before I could react. So, you're trying to bribe me? It's not bribery, it's family taking care of family, Mom cried out. Melissa made mistakes, but prison isn't the answer. I hung up and forwarded the recording to the police. My department leader sent me an email that evening. She had studied my proof and would authorize my readmission once the registrar restored the withdrawal. The investigator had rushed the police report. Everything was falling into place, but I still had to deal with the avalanche of missing coursework. Melissa's arrest occurred the next morning. I didn't observe, but she supposedly tried to flee and had to be tackled in the front yard. Within hours, her mugshot appeared online, mascara streaking down her cheeks and her visage twisted with wrath. My phone exploded with messages. Old high school classmates and distant relatives. Some people backed me, while others labeled me callous. They remarked, "She's your sister," as if that explained everything. Then Ryan texted, Melissa's ex-boyfriend from the previous year. I have information you need to see. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop near school. Ryan appeared exhausted but determined as he pulled out his phone. She used to brag about this stuff, he explained, flashing me text after text. Melissa was giggling about making me walk in foam slippers. Melissa explains how she convinced our parents that I was aggressive. Melissa was giving him false grade reports she had produced in Photoshop. Why didn't you tell anyone? I tried telling your parents about our breakup, but they said I was just bitter. He forwarded everything to me. Additional evidence for the prosecutor. That evening my parents arrived at my aunt's place. Dad hammered on the door, as Mom cried out on the lawn. My aunt would not let them in. Open this door, Dad screamed. She's our daughter. The neighbors phoned the cops. 2 officers arrived and issued my parents a trespassing notice. They had to flee or be arrested. I submitted everything to the registrar the next morning, with 36 hours to spare. The woman who helped me earlier rushed it through the system. You're officially re-enrolled, she announced, printing my confirmation. Good luck with the coursework. 4 months of assignments in 2 weeks. I did the math. If I worked 18 hours a day, I might be able to make it. But first, Melissa posted bail. She instantly got online and posted old images of us as kids with long explanations about how her beloved sister had turned against her when she had a disability. She said that I was jealous of the attention she received for her ADHD. She said I was the one who had been abusive, and she had merely been attempting to endure my campaign of terror. People who did not know the truth began sharing her posts. Disability discrimination is real, they said. Her sister is a monster. Then something unexpected occurred. Dr. Lauren Harper, a renowned ADHD specialist, contacted me via my university email. I've seen your sister's posts, she explained. What she's describing isn't consistent with ADHD. I'm concerned about the stigma this is creating for actual ADHD patients. Would you be willing to let me examine her claims? Of course, it is pro gratis. I shared the email to the lawyer, who embraced the concept. Meanwhile, Elise had virtually moved into her apartment's living room with me. We created a homework station with 2 laptops, a printer, and enough energy drinks to outfit a convenience shop. She took notes while I was writing papers. She coordinated research as I finished problem sets. 18 hours down, 6 to go, she would say around midnight, forcing me to take breaks. My instructors had been understanding once they discovered the facts. Some even extended deadlines for a few days. However, it was still harsh. My eyes burned and my fingers cramped. Citations and formulas came to mind in my dream. On day 10 of the homework marathon, just as I was about to collapse from tiredness, Elise arrived with reinforcements. 3 peers from my program came to help. They had heard what had happened and wanted to help me. Nobody should lose their education because of family abuse, one of them stated. We worked shifts. Someone was constantly brewing coffee. Someone was constantly proofreading. When my brain felt like mush, someone was always available to guide me through the next project. By day 11, my head felt as if it had been blended. But we were close. So close. The stack of finished assignments continued to build, but the to-do list gradually shrank. That evening, at 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with an Instagram notice as I was studying my last statistics problem set. Strangely, I hadn't touched social media in weeks. The message came from an account I didn't recognize, Butterfly Girl 2024. My blood ran cold as I read that. You think you won? I'll destroy you. Drop the charges, or I'll make what happened before look like nothing. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Remember, I know everything about you. Every password you've ever used, every secret you've ever told me. This isn't over. The typing pattern, the risks, and the use of passwords. It was Melissa. She was not meant to contact me at all. That was one of her bail terms. I took screenshots of everything and promptly gave them to the prosecutor. Within an hour, the detective had called. She violated her bail. We're picking her up now. Melissa returned to jail that night. This time, no bail. 2 days later, I sent in my final work with 24 hours to spare. Elise and I sat in her apartment, staring at the confirmation email from my previous professor. 4 months' labor was completed in 14 days. You did it, Elise replied. However, I was too weary to rejoice. I only wanted to sleep for a week. The following afternoon, my parents' lawyer contacted me. They'd engaged someone costly who wanted to meet to discuss resolving this family dispute without resorting to legal action. The lawyer accompanied me to the meeting. The expensive lawyer sat across from us in his posh office, attempting to appear sympathetic. Your parents are prepared to make you whole, he continued, slipping a check over the table. Full tuition reimbursement, plus damages. In exchange, you will dismiss all allegations and sign this non-disclosure agreement. I looked at the checkbook. $200,000. No, I replied. He blinked. Perhaps you don't understand. I understand perfectly. They want to buy their way out of accountability. 2 hours later, we arrived in court. My parents had sought a restraining order against me, saying that I was bothering them and jeopardizing Melissa's mental health. The judge read their petition with furrowed eyebrows. Then he examined our evidence, garage images, motion sensor receipts, and a recording of them attempting to bribe me. This restraining order is denied, he stated forcefully. And frankly, Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, you're lucky you're not facing charges for witness tampering. My parents exited the courtroom without looking at me. The following afternoon, I received calls from all 3 credit card firms. The fraud department had completed their probe. The loan would be discharged, but the damage to my credit score would linger for years. No apartment would rent to me, no auto loan, nothing. I have a spare room, Elise responded when I told her. Seriously, my roommate just moved out. It's yours if you want it. Dr. Harper called 3 days later with the results of her evaluation. Melissa had been subjected to 6 hours of testing while in custody. Your sister shows no neurological signs of ADHD, she explained gently. However, she does display clear indicators of antisocial personality disorder. The symptoms, she claimed, feeling vibrations through walls, brain scrambling from footsteps. These are medically impossible. I'll testify to this. I thanked her before hanging up, feeling strangely empty. Part of me wished Melissa actually had something wrong, something that explained everything. But no, she was simply mean. The next morning, I sent in my final makeup work with a day to spare. My GPA remained at 3.8. One of my professors even offered me a paid research post for the upcoming semester. "You've shown remarkable resilience," he told you. "I could use someone as determined as you on my team." Finally, some income, credit cards in her name, Instagram party photographs amid sensory episodes, and parents providing bribes like they're auctioning on eBay. Melissa is playing bogus bingo and completing every square as her parents facilitate the entire circus show. I agreed immediately. 1 week later, the prosecutor phoned. Melissa had been given a plea agreement that included 2 years probation, community service, and full restitution if she admitted to fraud and identity theft. She refused. The prosecution stated, "She wants a trial and says she'll prove you drove her to it." "When?" "Next month. You'll need to testify." The news of a trial divided my extended family. My phone didn't stop ringing. "You're sending your own sister to prison," my uncle shouted over the phone. "She's sick and needs help, not jail," my cousin texted. Others, however, encouraged me. My mother's sister contacted to say she had felt something was wrong for years. My father's brother agreed to testify about the Christmas meal where Melissa laughed about having the entire family wrapped around her finger. I stopped taking calls from anyone other than my aunt and the legal team. Elise helped me prepare for my testimony. We'd sit in her living room as she played prosecutor, asking me the most difficult questions she could think of. "Why didn't you call the police when you were moved to the garage?" "I thought it was my fault. That I really was too loud." "Again," Elise replied, without apologizing for existing. We practiced for hours until I was able to convey my experience without shaking. 2 weeks before the trial, my parents attempted again, this time through my aunt. "They're offering to pay for everything," my aunt explained, showing me the text. "Full college costs, therapy, a new car. They say Melissa is suicidal in jail." I contacted the prosecutor immediately. "This is witness tampering," she explained. "I'll handle it." My parents received an official warning from the judge. If they make another effort, they will face prosecution. I started treatment the next week. The therapist specialized in family trauma and gaslighting clients. "You were systematically abused," she stated after our first session. The walking restrictions were just the visible part. This started much earlier. She wasn't wrong. Melissa, in retrospect, had been in control of the family narrative for years. Every story became twisted. Each dispute became my fault. I had been indoctrinated to distrust my own reality. "We'll work on recognizing manipulation," the doctor stated, "and setting boundaries that protect you." Melissa's public attorney filed a motion for my medical records a week before the trial, saying that my mental health difficulties rendered me an untrustworthy witness. The judge only approved records from the specified time period. All they discovered was evidence of stress-related sleeplessness from sleeping in a garage. "Your medical records actually help our case," the prosecutor informed me. Ryan agreed to testify and brought a box of evidence I had no idea existed. Receipts showing Melissa shopping for designer bags on the same day I was moved to the garage, text messages in which she boasted about getting a free ride, and a video from a party in which she joked about forcing me to walk in foam slippers. "I kept everything after we broke up," he informed me. "I knew someday people would need to know the truth." The day before the trial, I moved in with Elise. We spent the morning putting together my room, hanging pictures, and making it feel like home. After months of uncertainty, I finally had a safe haven. Melissa's pals drove by slowly that evening, taking photos of the apartment complex. Elise caught it all on her security camera. "Let them try something," she remarked. "We're ready." My mother sent me one final email that night, a long meandering message about how I was damaging the family legacy, how she had failed as a mother, and how she knew something was wrong with Melissa but wanted to trust her. She never once apologized for making me sleep in a garage. Following the release of court records, the college newspaper published a report about the matter the following morning. My phone lighted up with texts from students. "She cheated off me in biology. She stole my laptop and said I lost it. She told everyone I was stalking her when I caught her lying about being in the honor society." Melissa's falsehoods and manipulation have been documented numerous times. The prosecutor included them in her evidence file. Trial day dawned dark and drizzly. I dressed my most professional attire and attempted to keep my hands from shaking. Elise drove me to the courthouse. "You've got this," she stated. "Just tell the truth." The first surprise occurred during jury selection. Melissa stood up and declared that she had fired her public defender. "I'll represent myself," she stated boldly. "No one knows my story better than me." The judge examined her over his glasses. Miss Coleman, I strongly advise against this. You're facing serious charges. I understand, Your Honor, but I know the truth better than any lawyer. The judge groaned and granted it. Day 2 of the trial. I took the stand. For 4 hours, I explained everything. The foam slippers, the carpet runners, the walking regimen, and the garage. My voice remained steady as I detailed finding the withdrawal confirmation, locating the forwarded emails, and learning about credit cards. Melissa kept interrupting. Objection, she's lying. Miss Coleman, you can't object to testimony. You'll have your chance to cross-examine. Melissa stood up when I mentioned finding out about her expulsion after 18 months of lying. You've ruined everything, she exclaimed. Everything was perfect until you had to dig around. The judge threatened to eject her from the courtroom. Then began Melissa's cross-examination. She approached me holding papers in her hands. Isn't it true that you walked loudly on purpose? No. But you admit you walked? Yes, I walked. In my own home. Aha. She looked at the jury as if she had won something. She admits it. The jury seemed perplexed. And isn't it true you were jealous of my academic success? You were expelled for plagiarism. I wasn't asking about that. She struggled through her inquiries for an hour, unwittingly divulging that she had changed my passwords, forwarded my emails, and had only spent a portion of the tuition money. Elise testified next, displaying our text discussions on a large screen. The jury witnessed everything in real time, my perplexity, desperation, and gradual realization of the truth. Ryan testified about Melissa's brags, displaying receipts and communications. Dr. Harper demonstrated in clinical depth why Melissa's alleged symptoms were physically impossible and unrelated to any recognized neurological disorder. The evidence was overwhelming. On day 3, my parents took the stand. They attempted to minimize everything, but the prosecutor presented receipts. Is this your credit card statement showing the purchase of motion sensors? Yes, but is this your receipt for the space heater for the garage? We wanted her to be comfortable in the garage, next to gas cans. Dad finally revealed that he'd never witnessed Melissa experience a sensory episode. Mom revealed that she had never verified Melissa's registration status. Melissa takes the stand on day 4 to defend herself. It was disastrous. She said that I had been envious since I was a child. She admitted to taking the money, but claimed she earned it because of the trauma I had caused. Despite Dr. Harper's testimony, she persisted on the reality of her ADHD. She unintentionally confessed to credit card fraud while attempting to explain it away. I only use them for necessities. Clothes are necessities. Trips are mental health care. The jury debated for 2 hours. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Melissa yelled that I was dead to her. My parents ignored me as the bailiffs dragged her away. I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I simply felt empty. Elise drove me home silently. I looked out the window at people going about their daily lives, drinking coffee, strolling their dogs, and conversing about things other than fraud and family betrayal. The emptiness felt heavily on my chest like a stone. You did the right thing, Elise replied. Finally, when we drove inside the apartment complex, I nodded, but the words seemed meaningless. Right and wrong seemed overly simplistic for what had just occurred. For the next week, I went through the motions, went to school, started my research work, prepared supper with Elise. But everything felt remote, as if I was seeing someone else's life through foggy glass. The sentencing hearing occurred on a Thursday morning. I dressed the same business attire, but this time my hands did not shake. Melissa stood in an orange jumpsuit, her hair flat on her skull, and no makeup to cover the black circles under her eyes. The judge considered the counts of fraud, identity theft, credit card fraud, and witness intimidation. Each count included prospective years. Miss Coleman, he said, Melissa, do you have anything to say before sentencing? She stood up straight. My sister destroyed our family out of jealousy. I needed that money for my medical treatment. She refused to accommodate my disability, and now she's sending me to prison for being sick. The judge's face did not change. Miss Coleman, multiple experts have testified that you have no disability requiring accommodation. You stole over $75,000, including credit fraud. You attempted to destroy your sister's education and future. He sentenced her to 3 years in state jail, with forced reparation of all stolen funds and damages. I hope you use this time to reflect on your choices, he told you. Melissa turned to gaze at me one final time. You destroyed this family, she stated simply. I hope you're happy. The bailiffs escorted her away. My parents had arrived this time and sat in the back row. Mom was crying silently. Dad's jaw was so tightened that I could see the muscles moving. They went without saying anything. The following morning, I went to the phone store with Elise. The clerk transferred my contacts as I watched my old phone number disappear from the screen. 10 years had passed, but it felt necessary, like closing a door. Wow. Melissa's inadvertent confessions while defending herself are mind-blowing. How did she believe that declaring clothes are necessities and trips are mental health care would help her case? I blocked my parents on everything, including email, social media, and LinkedIn. My aunt assisted me in filing the reparation papers, stressing that it would take years to receive any actual money. Prison wages are about $1 an hour, she explained. But at least it is something. 2 weeks later, my aunt sent me a letter from my parents. They were selling their home to pay for Melissa's appeal counsel and moving to Florida to start again. The letter condemned me for choosing revenge over family and promised to pray for my soul. I tossed it in the garbage without responding. My research job kept me busy. We were investigating memory formation in trauma victims. Ironically, given my situation, the task felt significant. Every data item, every analysis, contributes to something that can help someone else. "You're one of my strongest research assistants," my professor said to me one afternoon. "Your attention to detail is exceptional." I wanted to tell him that was the result of years of documenting Melissa's lies, but instead I simply said, "Thank you." The spring semester passed by in a whirlwind of coursework, research, and therapy appointments. The therapist assisted me in overcoming the shame that persisted during peaceful moments. "Guilt is common among abuse victims," she explained. "You were trained to prioritize your sister's needs over your own safety. It takes time to unlearn that." Sometimes I'd wake up believing I heard footsteps above me, only to remember that I now lived on the top level. My body was still primed for hypervigilance. Melissa's appeal was refused 2 months after she received her sentence. The evidence was too overwhelming. She was moved 3 hours away to a state women's detention prison. Some of her old pals apologized for believing her lies about me. "We should have known," one wrote. "She lied about everything else too." I've forgiven some of them but maintained my distance. Trust was becoming increasingly difficult to gain. My therapist assisted me in preparing a victim impact statement for the restitution court. We worked on it for 3 sessions, meticulously recording the financial and emotional consequences, the garage, the lost semester, credit destruction, and treatment bills. Melissa was ordered by the judge to pay a total of $100,000, which included the stolen tuition, credit card debt, and emotional distress damages. At prison rates, it would take decades. "It's not about the money," the therapist told me. "It's about accountability." The following week, a TV producer contacted and expressed interest in making a documentary about sibling fraud and family treachery. They promised a significant sum of money for my cooperation. "Your story could help other victims," the woman remarked. "No," I informed her. "I need to move forward, not backward." She called 3 more times before giving up. May arrived, bringing final examinations and graduation preparations. Elise assisted me in selecting a cap and gown, and insisted on shooting photos, despite the fact that I felt strange celebrating. "You earned this," she remarked. "Despite everything. You finished." My aunt and uncle attended graduation, as did Elise and Ryan. We had become friends during the trial. "Trauma bonding," the therapist labeled it. They cheered as I came across the platform, my honors cord waving with every step. The seats where my parents should have been remained empty. I tried to avoid looking at them. The next morning, I checked my inbox and found an acceptance letter from a graduate program across the nation. Full scholarship, research assistantship, and a completely new start in which no one knew my story. "Take it," Elise responded immediately. "You need this." I agreed that afternoon. 6 weeks later, my aunt called to share some news. My grandmother, my father's mother, had died. "The funeral is on Thursday," my aunt explained cautiously. "Your parents told everyone you're not welcome. They're saying you've joined a cult." "A cult?" I laughed, but it turned bitter. That is their narrative, easier than explaining the truth. Melissa received supervised release to attend the funeral. My cousin emailed me photos, her in a black frock with an ankle monitor, crying loudly at the burial while my parents hugged her. The extended family gathered around them as if nothing had occurred. I stayed at home and looked over old photos of Grandma instead. She had always been polite to me, but distant. Now I was wondering what stories my parents had told her about me over the years. The first compensation payout arrived a week later. $5,000 was a minuscule portion of what was owed, but it was something. I used some for therapy, some for moving expenses, and the rest in savings. August came quickly. I packed up all I owned into a little trailer. Elise helped me load boxes while we both tried not to cry. "You'll pay a visit," she said. "And I'll come see you, of course." But we both knew it would be different. The drive across the country took 4 days. I stopped at random motels, ate at truck stops, and observed the countryside transform from familiar to unfamiliar. With each mile, the weight on my chest gradually lifted. My new graduate school roommate was frequently talking about her plant biology study. The second week, she commented on how gently I walked. "It's like you're not even there sometimes," she remarked, laughing. I forced myself to walk normally thereafter. Each footstep represents a modest act of defiance against previous tendencies. It took several months to feel normal again. The program was hard, but in a positive way. Nobody knew about Melissa, the trial, or the garage. I was just another graduate student studying neuroscience, working late in the lab and consuming too much coffee. 3 months into the semester, I received a letter forwarded from my aunt's address. Melissa's handwriting on the envelope caused my stomach to clench. Inside are 3 pages of Melissa's neat handwriting. She forgives me for betraying her. She recognized that others had manipulated me into testifying. She hoped that one day I would realize what I had done and come to see her so she could forgive me in person. She made no apologies or acknowledgments of her actions. During a late-night experiment, I burned it in the lab's Bunsen burner, seeing the pages curl and blacken until there was just ash left. December provided another surprise. My parents sent me a Christmas card with a check for $1,000. "We'll always love you despite everything," they wrote. "Perhaps someday you'll realize family is more important than being right." I stared at the check for a long time. $1,000 would assist with expenditures, but accepting it felt like agreeing with their version of events. Instead, I donated it to a domestic abuse shelter and simply sent them the receipt. The spring semester began with me teaching undergraduate biology labs. Standing in front of 18-year-olds and describing mitosis and cell division was weird. Some were older than Melissa had been when she began telling lies. One girl stayed after class in March. She fidgeted with her notebook, avoiding eye contact. "My sister says I'm making her sick," she explained quietly. "She says my breathing is too loud when I study. My parents want me to move to the basement." My chest was tightening. I recognized the expression in her eyes, bewilderment mingled with self-doubt. "That's not normal," I explained gently. "Breathing doesn't make people sick." She burst into tears. "But she has anxiety. The doctor said I should be supportive." I informed her about gaslighting, emotional abuse, and documenting everything. I told her about the on-campus counseling center. "Someone believes me," she muttered. "I believe you." She left with her shoulders slightly straighter. I hoped she would be fine. That afternoon, I returned to my office with heavy, purposeful steps. My boots boomed through the hall. A coworker looked up, startled by the noise. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't hear you coming. You're usually so quiet." "Not anymore," I said. I walked loudly after that. Allow my footsteps to declare my presence. Let them resound and reverberate. Each stride was an assertion of my existence, that I had the right to occupy space and make noise in my own life. Thanks for listening along while I wondered about things with you. It's been quite the journey together. See you around, friends. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.